Good morning, how are you? It's 7:14 a.m. over here, and my name is Robert. I am going to talk about the messenger policies that currently exist. There's a lot of people who are unaware of what they are. A lot of people need some clarity about certain things. And I just kind of wanted to take you through it as somebody who hasn't really studied it that hard, but I feel like I have a pretty decent grasp to give you that 20/80 understanding of the messenger policies, because they're important to know, especially if you're building chatbots for your clients. You don't want to end up in a situation where somebody pays you thousands of dollars and 6 months from now their bot gets banned. They're going to be pissed. So let's talk about some of the changes and what you need to know. Real quick, this video is going to be very short, by the way. There's not too much that you need to know. And there are, I'm going to talk some on kind of general best practices. These are not laws or anything like that. They are my own personal preferences from spending just too many hours building chatbots and playing with chatbots. I like to make them as user-friendly as possible, and I think that benefits you mostly, because if your users aren't using the bot the way you want them to, you're the one who's going to be losing out on it. So I just want to cover some of that in the end. And also let's talk about marketing within Facebook's policies. What can and can't you do? So it's pretty simple. Let's start from the top. There's 3 different message types, okay? The first one is think of this as every time you send a message, it's going to be categorized as a standard message, a subscription message, or what's called a message tag, which is really interesting. Let's start at the top. The standard messaging tag, so to speak, is also referred to as the 24+1 policy. It's when there's an input from the user. Let's say they click a button or they type something to your bot. Within 24 hours, you can respond to them, right? And usually when they click a button, the response is instant and it comes right away. So you've used up that first response that you're allowed to. And this is allowed to be a promotional message, okay? And then we've got the +1, which means that outside of that 24-hour window, you are allowed to send one more message without kind of extra input from the user, and that is also allowed, I believe, to be a promotional message. Now, after that, many of us are technically not allowed to send another message until we get another response from the user, okay? Now, this is not as open as all of us wished it were. I mean, I think in the long run it's going to be good because it's going to be harder to spam people, and this is obviously what they're trying to control. So that is the standard rule. You got your first response, and then you're allowed one more message without input from the user. And then we've got what's called subscription messages. This will require permission from Facebook first. And I think they will kind of crack down on this. There's a date in the policies, and I'll give you the link to all these policies after I'm done. I believe the date is like May 8th, 2018, something like that. That's when I think these changes will kind of officially go into effect, and you probably won't even be able to send automated kind of autoresponders for 3 days in a row unless you have the subscription message permission. So I don't know that for sure. That's just what I think is how it's going to play out. So you will need permission, and this, if you do have a permission to send subscription messages, you will be allowed to send a message every day, for example, if you want. Now the difference here is that's not allowed to be promotional content. However, if an interaction occurs, then we go back to that standard message policy for 24 hours, which means you would be allowed to send messages. And the types of bots that will have a chance to get the permission to be a subscription message type bot are news, productivity, and personal trackers. So news, this would be literal, news channels, for example, but also things like celebrities and things of that nature. And this is why I actually wrote a piece the other day about how the entertainment industry is just sleeping on a massive opportunity here, because they are the ones that I think can really benefit the most out of chatbots. Because for one, they would be allowed to send new messages every day. And you got to think of it like this: even though you're not allowed to send promotional content in your subscription message, it's an opportunity. Every time you message them, you're opening an opportunity for an interaction. And as we know by now, any interaction means we go back to the standard message policy, which will allow us to send promotional content. So news, productivity, if you're managing a calendar or sending kind of reminders, things like that, that you set for yourself. For example, I built a bot. One of my first bots was a kind of a to-do list, right? So you set your goals for 12 weeks and then you set your daily tasks. I believe I would be able to apply to get the permission for that bot to actually be, have the permissions of a subscription type of bot. And then we've got personal trackers. So this is probably one of the most interesting spaces because this will probably, there's a lot of innovation that can occur here. You talk about fitness and people being able to track their blood and what they need to eat. I mean, can you imagine waking up and getting a message in your bot saying, all right, so take the vitamin C today, do this and do that. Like, how amazing would that be? So those are the three categories. So if there's an opportunity for you to place your own bot in one of these categories, you're going to benefit greatly from that because you will be able to, provide yourself with the opportunity of getting an interaction, for example, every day if you message your people every day and they actually want to hear you. So I hope that makes sense. Now let's talk about message tags, because this is, if you get a little creative here, this will be an opportunity for those of us who unfortunately don't fall into the news or productivity or personal trackers. This will be an opportunity for us to send messages, perhaps not daily, but outside of the 24+1 policy. And that will, again, open up an opportunity for an interaction, which would then allow us to send, again, standard messages with promotions. So think of message tags like updating someone on a change of some type. So if you're waiting for a parking spot to open up and it did, that is now kind of that is a message that you are allowed to send outside of the 24-hour rule, even if you're not one of these subscription type bots. Maybe you applied for something and your application status has changed. Maybe you've been, it's been reviewed and you've been, granted access to something or whatever. That is also a type of message you would be allowed to send. Our password has changed. A hotel upgrade has been granted. Things of that nature. So again, think of it like you're updating someone of a change of some kind. So as an example, if I had a webinar and the time of that webinar changed, I would actually be allowed to send that message saying, hey, the webinar's changed, and I could ask for another interaction. The webinar time has changed. So this will be an opportunity for other people to get creative and kind of see how this fits into your bots and how you might be able to squeeze out a few more opportunities to get an interaction, and again, reset that standard messaging timer. This can, again, be sent outside of 24 hours, and this has to be non-promotional. So hope that makes sense. If you break these terms, you will most likely get a warning from Facebook via email or the support inbox. I've seen a couple of those, and I think, I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming if you get a second offense, you would most likely be, they would block your page from being able to use a bot, and I've seen a few cases like that. Let's just super quickly talk about best practices from my own perspective here, and there's only two things I want to talk to you about. If you're sending a broadcast or a message sequence or something like that, don't send ever. Don't send people more than 3 messages at a time without getting an interaction. So what I mean is, if you have to send people 10 messages, or call it 9 messages, that's fine. But what you do is send 3 messages, let them read them at their own pace, and then put a quick reply in there, which means you don't have to create like a new sequence or a new message block or something. You send 3 messages, you ask for an interaction, that just, you could have a little button that says like, okay, or tell me more. And then they'll get the next 3 messages. They read it at their own pace, and then there's another quick reply. So the quick reply does nothing else other than break up these 9 little text bubbles into 3 groups. And that way, I don't know if you've ever been bombarded where you're not inside of, if you're on desktop and you're not inside your messenger window and somebody sends you a broadcast with like 12 messages and your computer goes bing, 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 bing. It's super annoying, so don't do that. So at the most, ideally, if you're sending somebody a message they're not anticipating, whether it's a follow-up or it's just a random broadcast, that should ideally be just one message, in my opinion, with asking for input, asking them to click a button. And once they click that button, then I would be happy to go into 3 messages and then break it up with a quick reply. And then always provide the option to unsubscribe and honor that choice. So when broadcasting messages, make sure to exclude people who have actually unsubscribed your audience. So let me, I was just checking it here. I'll give you a quick demo of how I create the unsubscribe functionality inside of ChatFuel, which is what I use. So I make 4 blocks. I have an unsubscribe block, I have a resubscribe block, I have an unsubscribe confirmation, and a resubscribe confirmation. So if somebody types stop or unsubscribe, they will go here. And if it's their first time, they will see this message that says, "You're currently subscribed. Would you like to stop getting messages from us?" And then they might click yes, unsubscribe. And that will take us to the confirmation. And now we update their user attribute. So the update user attribute is now equal to yes, unsubscribe. And then they'll see a message, "You're unsubscribed," and they'll get the chance to resubscribe if they want. And then they can click here, and this will kind of clear the update variable. So now they're subscribed again. It'll say "You are subscribed." And then basically what will happen is, let's say we stopped at the unsubscribe. So let's say they're unsubscribed, and then 2 weeks later, they're not sure if they're unsubscribed or not. They type stop. They will immediately come to the unsubscribe block. But then I have a go-to block that says, if the update is already yes, unsubscribe, which in this case it would be, then we don't show them this message that says they're subscribed, because they're not. So we take them to the resubscribe that says, "You're currently unsubscribed. Would you like to get a message from us?" And equally here, if they are subscribed and they somehow go directly to this block, this will make sure that we don't show them the message saying they're unsubscribed, because they're actually subscribed. So this will take them to the unsubscribe. And then what you do is, anytime you've got a follow-up or something like that, you make sure that you filter those people out. So if update is not yes, unsubscribe, then send this message to people. That's how you honor their unsubscription, so to speak. Very cool. I hope that makes sense for everybody. I hope that helps you get an understanding of what you can and cannot do. They're not really cracking down on this hard yet, but it's definitely time to start building bots that are as compliant as possibly can be. You don't want to end up in a situation where your bots are getting banned or your clients are getting banned. That would not be fun for anyone. And if you want to learn more about this, just go to developers.facebook.com/docs/messenger-platform. That's it, guys. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Ciao.